Okay, so let's get right into it. A massive trove of court documents connected to Jeffrey Epstein has just been made public. But it's how a congressional committee released them that's really kicked off a political firestorm in Washington.
We are talking about a huge number here. Over 20,000 pages of documents, a lot of them from Epstein's estate, were unsealed in court. And when the U.S. House Oversight Committee dropped them, it put his huge and powerful network right back under the microscope.
And that leads us to the big question, right? The one everyone's asking. What is actually in these files? And maybe more specifically, what do they tell us about powerful people, including former President Donald Trump?
So here's what we're going to break down. We'll look at how these documents came out, dig into the most explosive claims inside them, see who else got pulled into this, and then unpack the political fight for transparency that's happening right now.
First thing you need to know is this wasn't some simple, straightforward release of information. Nope. From the very beginning, this was a strategic, partisan political battle.
Yeah, so you had two completely different narratives being pushed right out of the gate. First, Democrats on the committee released this small, hand-picked set of emails. Then, just a few hours later, Republicans dropped the whole 20,000-page collection, basically accusing the Democrats of cherry-picking stuff just to smear the president.
All right, let's actually look at the emails themselves and see exactly what claims have caused this whole firestorm.
Now, this is one of the emails you've probably heard the most about. In a 2011 exchange with Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein wrote that Trump was the dog that hasn't barked, which seems to imply that Trump knew about a victim at his house, but just never said a word about it.
The White House, as you can imagine, fired back immediately. A spokesperson basically said that the victim they're talking about, Virginia Giuffre, has said over and over again that President Trump had nothing to do with any wrongdoing. They just brushed the whole thing off as a political hit job.
But that wasn't the only claim. In another document, this one an email to journalist Michael Wolff, Epstein apparently stated directly that Trump knew about the girls and even claimed that Trump had asked Ghislaine Maxwell to stop.
And this is where their relationship gets really complex. Because alongside all these incredibly serious allegations, you also have files showing Epstein talking trash about Trump. In one 2018 email to former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers, Epstein actually called Trump borderline insane.
Now, while Trump is obviously a central figure here, the documents really do look far beyond just one person. They start to reveal this huge network of really influential people that were in Epstein's orbit.
I mean, the emails mention a whole host of powerful people from all over. Finance, politics, tech. You can see names like former Treasury Secretary Lawrence Summers and Goldman Sachs General Counsel Kathy Rumler pop up, and it just shows you how wide Epstein's circle really was. We're going to look at one of these examples right now.
So, for instance, let's take Kathy Rumler. She's the top lawyer at Goldman Sachs and was a counsel in the Obama White House. Her pretty friendly-sounding emails with Epstein were part of this release. Now, Goldman Sachs pointed out that the emails were from before she worked there and said they benefit from her judgment every day. Rumler herself has said she regrets ever knowing Epstein.
So this document release, it's definitely not the end of the story. It's just one part of a much bigger political fight happening in Washington over transparency. And that brings us to, well, what happens next?
So you've got this small, bipartisan group of lawmakers who pushed a bill to release all the federal files on Epstein. When leadership put the brakes on it, they used this really rare move. It's called a discharge petition to go around them and force a vote. And after weeks, they got the 218 signatures they needed, with 4 Republicans joining all the Democrats.
And this is a really big but. Even if the bill manages to pass the House, it's facing a very steep uphill climb. It would still need to get 60 votes in the Senate, it would have to avoid a presidential veto, and it could even face legal challenges from the Justice Department.
And what makes things even trickier is this official memo from the Justice Department. Their position is that they've already reviewed the files themselves and found no incriminating client list and no new evidence that would justify investigating anybody else.
So what you have here is this fundamental clash. On one side, you've got this bipartisan group of lawmakers who are demanding total public disclosure. And on the other side, you've got the established political leadership and a Justice Department that's basically saying there's nothing more to see here.
Ultimately, this all leads to the one big question of what happens next. The House vote is on its way, but is this going to be the final step toward getting the whole story, or will powerful secrets, whatever they turn out to be, stay protected?